Hello, nature enthusiasts. So, we humans are still struggling through the COVID-19 pandemic, but we aren't the only ones who get sick. Birds get sick too, and in fact, some birds, especially in the eastern US, facing a new emerging disease. I want to tell you about it. This disease first showed up in Washington, D.C. in April, and it started to spread from there. It was an odd one. Birds were showing up at veterinary clinics and wildlife rehabs and wildlife departments with sort of crustiness around the eyes, and it was impairing their ability to see. And it seemed like as the disease progressed, they would become sort of neurological in symptoms, where their back legs would start to twitch and they'd lose function in the back legs, lose balance, seem to be disoriented, and many of them die. So it was obviously, a significant disease. And as you can see from this map, April started in Washington, D.C. In May, spread to a couple more states around it. And then in June, it spread more. And in July of 2021, it spread even a bit more. And that's kind of the most current map we've got right now. So, definitely concerning. In particular, the species affected seem to be predominantly blue jays and common grackles and European starlings and American robins. And no one was entirely sure what this was. Vets started testing it like crazy. Biologists jumped in, started testing, trying to figure out what they were. They tested a lot of the usual suspects, the more common avian diseases, things like West Nile virus or salmonella. And test after test after test came up negative. It wasn't any of the normal suspects. So people really weren't sure what's going on. And in fact, to this day, it's August right now in 2021, and no one is sure what this is. Testing is ongoing, and hopefully we'll figure it out soon, but at this point, it's still a big unknown. And this kind of thing happens. Diseases emerge. Populations go different places that they haven't been before, or some disease that has been around mutates into a new form. I mean, we humans, we're learning a lot about this kind of stuff with COVID-19 and the Delta variant that arose and all the other variants that are kind of floating around as well. Delta is just sort of the most famous. But like I said, we humans are not special in this way. Animals are affected by diseases. Diseases evolve. Animals evolve to combat the diseases. It's an arms race that goes on between the pathogen, be it a virus or a parasite or a bacteria or a fungus or whatever, and its host, and sort of the species that it affects. Now, there does seem to be some good news about this bird pathogen, this mystery bird pathogen. And that is that numbers seem to be kind of declining on their own. The numbers surged for a while there, for a couple months, definitely spread like you saw on those maps. But now seems to be maybe getting smaller, lower rates coming in. But again, as we humans have discovered with COVID-19, you really can't take anything for granted. I mean, it's possible that this is just part of this disease's life cycle, that it emerged, it sort of blossomed into this population, and now it's going to sort of slowly fade away. It's also possible that during this, what looks like an initial fade away, it's going to surge back and be a bigger problem. So that puts some emphasis on us humans, and what can we do? Well, first off, if you don't live in any of those states that are currently experiencing this outbreak, stay informed. Stay in touch with your local wildlife biologist. Stay in touch with your local Audubon chapter. Do some Google searches to see how this thing spreads through August and September and et cetera, on into the future. And just, be vigilant and be aware. If you do live in one of those states, there are really three big things that are being recommended. One is take down your bird feeders. Bird feeders are places where birds congregate. And just like humans with COVID-19, when you get bunches of people together, diseases spread more easily. So basically, you're telling birds to social distance when you take down the bird feeders. You make them spread out, and that will slow the spread of the disease. Good stuff. So take your bird feeders down. The second thing that you can do is, if you have a bird bath, keep it super clean. So you're going to want to wash this thing out maybe a couple times a week with a 1/10 concentration of bleach. So, 1 cup of bleach to 9 cups of bleach. That's 1/10 the volume, or whatever volume you need to clean your particular bird feeder. But really scrub it out. That bleach will kill off practically anything. It's great stuff. So make sure you're really, really keeping your bird baths clean. So again, this is a potential concentration point for birds. And if an infected bird shows up at your bird feeder, if an infected bird shows up at your bird bath and contaminates it with whatever this mystery disease is, the bleach will hopefully kill it off. So that's 2. And the third thing is pay really close attention to the birds that you see. And if you see a sick bird, report it. So get a hold of your state's wildlife agency. In California, it would be California Fish and Wildlife. There's the Oregon Division of Wildlife. Every state has got a division or a department. So find out what yours is. And if you find a sick bird, get in touch with them and figure out what to do. Your local Audubon chapter could also be a great resource for some advice and instructions on what to do if you find a bird that has recently died and maybe has crusty eyes, or maybe you actually saw it struggling and seemed to lose balance and couldn't sort of orient itself. Reach out to some experts, find out what they suggest, and follow those recommendations. So those are the 3 things. Take your bird feeders down, clean your bird baths really well if you're going to keep them up, and watch for dead birds, watch for sick birds, watch the birds around you, and report what you see. So those are 3 things we can do. And again, if you don't live in one of those states, people aren't really recommending you preemptively take your bird feeders down. But if this thing spreads, we should all be ready to do that. So it's an emerging situation. There are a lot of unknowns with this. And that's kind of a big part of life, There are unknowns. And becoming comfortable and being ready for those unknowns and how to respond to them is really important for us all to do, both for our own health and safety with things like COVID-19, and also for the health and safety of the animals and plants that we live around and that we share this world with. So thanks for the view. Please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, enjoy the natural world.